Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I'm the host of the show. It's been a little while since I've been on, and as the show continues to evolve, we're going to keep trying different things. So, the biggest challenge for me, I'm going to go a little inside baseball for the show, is obviously the consistency of getting new episodes out. I've actually got a queue of movies that I've watched, kind of new and old, and just haven't been able to record episodes. The main factor being the time of year, summertime. My son competes in Taekwondo, and his tournament season is heavy in the summertime, and there's a lot going on. So that's wrapped up. He's starting a new season, but it's been kind of it's kind of hectic, and then I've got another child as well. So what I'm going to try to start doing now, I actually have the house to myself, so I have the ability to record. I'm actually going to do live. I'm going to start doing live episodes again, and hopefully I'm broadcasting on Instagram right now. I've been trying to figure that situation out forever. To get shows on Instagram as well. So hopefully you are seeing this on the Bend Your Ear Pod Instagram account. Hopefully that will start happening so people can comment there. So before I get into today's show, I want to put a plug in, like I said, for my son. My son Ethan is going for Athlete of the Year. I've got it put on my X page. I'll put it in after I finish this live show. If you can vote for him, it's very simple. It takes a couple of seconds. He's in the third round now, trying to get into the top 10 of his group phase. If the winner of this gets a cash prize and a ad featured in Sports Illustrated, which would be really cool. My son works very, very, very hard. So like I said, I want to put my plug in as a proud dad for my son, Ethan. Again, I will put it on my X page. Like I said, they verify through Facebook. So if you have a Facebook account, it takes literally I don't know, at the most 30 seconds. And it's a free voted day. You can also choose to donate for more votes. It goes to the V Foundation and the Why Not Foundation, two charities, to get more votes. But again, you don't have to do that. If you can vote once a day for free, that would be great. This round ends on Thursday, this coming Thursday. So I'll probably maybe come live for things like that for my son. So definitely if you can do that, I'd appreciate it. All right. Now down to business. So, of course, this is the Bend Your Ear podcast. My name is Frank. I am the host of this show. When I'm on and when I'm able to upload episodes, what I usually do is I discuss movies new and old. And the normal format is for a while now, I've been reviewing one movie per episode for a couple of reasons. One, it allows me just to focus on one movie. And two, again, a little inside baseball. I'm doing the streaming software I use limits videos that I can schedule later to show at 30 minutes. So I don't really like that restriction. So what I'm actually going to do today, I'm going to review two movies, two comic book movies, one from Marvel and one from DC. So I'm going to I'm going to review Superman, James Gunn's reboot, whatever you want to call it, new Superman film, and then the Marvel film Thunderbolts. So I know I'm a little bit behind the eight ball. I know Fantastic Four has been out. Superman's been out for a while. Fantastic Four is out now. I have not seen Fantastic Four yet. So I haven't obviously I don't have the opportunity to review it. Again, me getting to the theater is another challenge for me in this movie podcast as well. I don't get to go as often as I'd like to. I try to, especially when it's movies I really want to see. My last episode, which was Sinners, the Ryan Coogler film, which I'm a big fan of. You can go right back. It's the latest episode that's up now. You can listen to and or watch that review. So as of right now, the show should be airing live on my YouTube channel, my X page, my Rumble page, and hopefully on Instagram. So if you are on, I see there's some people on watching now. If you can see me on Instagram specifically, if you can go into the chat and let me know that you see me there. I don't have my phone right by me because I don't want to be distracted by the phone. So let me know. This is the first time I've tried to stream on Instagram. I've had an Instagram account for the podcast for a long time, and go from there. So let me know if you see me on Instagram. If you don't, I'll figure that out later. So again, I'm going to be reviewing Superman and I'm going to be reviewing Thunderbolts. So on the top here, you see the QR code if you want to support the show. If you're a regular listener or watcher, first of all, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you listening and providing feedback. So thank you for that. You can hit it right there, or you can go to the X page, which is at Bend Your Ear Pod. Again, as I said, I discuss movies new and old, and something I love to do. Like I said, I don't get to do it enough, and I want to hopefully do this more frequently and interact with the audience of the show. So I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do is to start with Superman. So my history with Superman, of course, is going all the way back to 1978. So regarding comic books, I don't read comic books. I'm not a comic book reader. So all my knowledge of Superman strictly comes from television and movies. So when I was a small child, I watched the old Superman television series that was in syndication. So obviously that came out in the 50s with George Reeves, The Adventures of Superman. That's where I was first introduced to the character. And then after that, of course, the main movie for me and one of my top 5 movies of all time, which was 1978 Superman, directed by Richard Donner and starring, of course, the late Christopher Reeve. And then, of course, before I came on now, I just saw that English actor Terrence Stamp, who played General Zod in Superman and Superman 2, has passed away. Of course, he was fantastic in both of those films. Also fantastic. Two of my favorite roles of Terrence Stamp after that was in 1987's Wall Street, the Oliver Stone film. He's got a small role in there as a corporate honcho that tangles with Michael Douglas's Gordon Gekko character. He's got a small role in Wall Street, but he's great. And then, of course, he had a kind of a resurgence in I think it's 1997's The Limey, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Another really good performance by Terrence Stamp. So very sad to hear his loss there, passing away today. So, of course, for me, Superman 1978 is, like I said, it's in my it's in my top 5 of my favorite movies of all time. I saw the film in the theaters when I was a child, and it just made an impact on me as far as movies, as far as taking you to another place and just, transporting you to another place, and just the imagination and love that I have of movies to this day. So Superman has a special place in my heart as far as movies are concerned. And of course, since the original iteration, the first, the 4 Superman films of Christopher Reeve, then of course you've got the Superman movies that have come subsequently. So I'm not going to get into the kind of the debate about Superman movies in the sense that you had Superman Returns, which was directed by Bryan Singer. I think that was 2006. Brandon Routh played Superman. Kevin Spacey played Lex Luthor. I have not reviewed that film for this podcast. I can give you a quick summation for me. What I loved about Superman Returns was it was a tribute and a nod to the Donner films, incorporating the John Williams music. Even the opening credits were similar to the original film. And there was a lot about Superman Returns that I liked. Unfortunately for me, the third act, I thought, really just destroyed the movie. So my overall view of the movie was that it was okay. It was an attempt, but not successful. And then, of course, after that, you get into the Zack Snyder Man of Steel, DC universe, with that character directed, creatively ushered in by Zack Snyder. So Man of Steel, also, I have not reviewed for this podcast yet. I saw Man of Steel and I saw Superman versus Batman. I've seen both those films. I have reviewed Justice League on the podcast. You can go back into the feed and see it there. The uncut version, the Zack Snyder version of Justice League. I've never seen the original version that was directed or actually started by Zack Snyder, and then Joss Whedon came in after the tragic suicide of Zack Snyder's daughter. So I have not seen that version. I've seen the full fleshed out version that was released on HBO Max, and I liked it. There was a lot about it that I liked, so I liked it more than I thought I probably would. Regarding Man of Steel and Superman, my issue with Man of Steel is not Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. I thought it was fantastic. I thought he did a great job. There were things about the movie that I liked. I didn't love Man of Steel. I didn't hate the movie. Now, the second movie was terrible. Batman versus Superman. And look, and this is not a knock on Zack Snyder. I don't do the Zack Snyder versus whoever club. That's not even anything to do about that. Man of Steel was okay. The second movie I thought was terrible. For me, Zack Snyder, I love 300. I did not like Watchmen. So I'm back and forth on Zack Snyder on the quality of his movies, in my opinion. So again, I don't want to get into that whole Zack Snyder versus everybody else, and Zack Snyder should be brought back. I don't really care either way. All I care about, and I've always cared about, is that the movies are good, regardless of who's making them, who's writing them. As long as the movie comes out to me entertaining, that's all I care about. So again, that iteration of Superman went through, obviously, Warner Brothers, which I've had a separate criticism of, is their handling of their comic book properties has kind of been all over the place. It's never seemed to have a focus. And I've said this in podcasts a couple of years ago. I think Warner Brothers' biggest mistake early on was trying to rush to catch up to Marvel, because Marvel, of course, had been so successful going up into, all the way from Iron Man through Avengers Endgame. And I think DC was trying to play catch up, and instead of focusing on each movie being really, really good, and I think it really hurt them. So I think they're trying to rectify that with James Gunn. We'll see if that ends up happening. But regarding Superman, that's where I'm at now. So obviously, this Superman that James Gunn wrote and directed, I was interested to see what's going to happen. When I saw the trailers early on, I wasn't sure about if I was going to like the movie or not. James Gunn to me is kind of almost not kind of like Zack Snyder in the sense that I've seen not all of his films, but some of them, and I'm up and down on him. So I'm going to start with the Suicide Squad. I didn't like at all. Not a fan of it. The original Guardians of the Galaxy, I was not a big fan of either. The second film, Volume 2, I actually liked a lot. Volume 3, I have not seen. So for me, James Gunn is I'm up and down on James Gunn. So I didn't know what he was going to do or what the quality of the Superman movie was going to be with him at the helm. Seeing the initial trailers, I wasn't sure. My biggest concern when I saw the trailers early on was a concern that I have when comic book movies don't succeed, is the issue of too many characters. And I'll get into that when I get into the proper review of Superman. But just my initial thoughts just on the trailer alone was that, okay, I'm not sure, juggling a bunch of characters, I don't know how that's going to work. That usually does not work. So I was not hopeful about that. And then the second thing that was kind of a big thing in the trailers was obviously introducing Crypto. So now, I didn't read the comic books. I never really was introduced to the Crypto character other than the Secret Life of, or not Secret Life, the Super Pets movie, the animated film that I saw with my son. And Crypto, of course, is the main character in that film. I didn't have an issue with it either way. To me, I looked at it, okay, it's a dog with the superpowers. My thought on Crypto was, how are they going to do that is going to depend on whether I like it or not. So I don't have a problem with the character being there. Again, it's from the comic books, which I didn't read. But for me, as long as it's done in a way that I think helps the movie, I didn't really care either way about them introducing that character. So those are my initial thoughts going in. So I go see the film, and obviously Superman in this, I'm going to talk about the things I liked first. So there was a lot of choices that James Gunn made that I thought were smart. So the first thing, and he said that early on in interviews too, is that he wasn't going to tell an origin story. And I think that's smart. If you don't know the origin of Superman by now, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't think we need another origin story. And he smartly chose to not do that. And then I know early on he said this is going to be a younger Superman. Of course it is. And at the beginning of the film, they set up basically what's been going on. That at the beginning of this film, he's basically been in Metropolis, been Superman for 3 years. They set that up and then kind of just get into the story. So the story is you have Clark and Superman. He's working at the Daily Planet, all the things that we all know. And then, of course, you have the main bad guy, which, of course, is always Lex Luthor, the big baddie for Superman. And, of course, there's many more in the comic books, but obviously they're going to start with Lex Luthor. So in this film, there is a war that's about to develop between two countries, one country taking over the other country. And there's issues going on there, so it's a global situation. And Superman gets embroiled in this war due to Lex Luthor. So what we find in this film, which introduces a bunch of different characters. So other than the main characters that you know, so you've got Superman, you've got Lois Lane, you've got Perry White, the editor of the Daily Planet, you've got Jimmy Olsen. So those are the ones everybody knows, whether you read the comic books or not. And then what you're introduced to in the movie is basically the beginnings of what would be the Justice League, I think. So you get Mr. Terrific, you get Hawkgirl, and you get the Lantern character. And of course, I forgot his name right off the bat. I was just going to make sure I wasn't going to forget it. He's played by the hilarious actor Nathan Fillion, of course, but he is basically one of the Lanterns. So now I don't know the lore of Green Lantern. I know there's a bunch of different Lanterns, and I know there's going to be a Lanterns television series that's going to be premiering with the other Lanterns in it. Guy Gardner. There we go. I had to look him up. So Guy Gardner as a team of superheroes. So these superheroes are introduced to the story, and and Superman interacts with them. They have a antagonistic relationship with each other and a interesting dynamic within the group. Like I said, one of the funny jokes that are in the movie is that Guy Gardner insists on calling them the Justice Gang, which is funny. And one of the things visually that I love too is you see, if you ever watched the Super Friends cartoon in the late 1970s, early 80s, you have the Hall of Justice where all the superheroes, of course, they're what you call it, their clubhouse, for lack of a better term. And it's architecturally shown in the movie, and it brought back those fun memories of that television show. And the overall thing with James Gunn, and I think it was obviously a deliberate choice on his part. This Superman film is, to me, and ironically, since I don't read the comic books, it is the most comic booky feeling Superman movie that I think I've seen. And that's not a criticism. That's just the way he decided. And I think it's the aesthetic I love. It's more fun in that sense. Uh, like I said, you saw, he's fighting like a giant dinosaur in the film. That's something that I think would be jarring to me, being used to it, but it didn't bother me at all. But the visuals of the film are fantastic. The comic book sensibility of the film is fantastic. And as I said earlier, the multiple characters in the movie, he was able to juggle them very, very well. I thought they all worked within the story, because the tough balance for me always with that is integrating multiple characters into the story while at the same time giving those multiple characters enough time for you to care about their characters and keep the story moving, which I thought James Gunn was successful in doing pretty much for the most part. I don't think there was anything that I thought was outrageously out of line or anything that kind of threw me. I really thought he did a good, and I was really concerned that was going to really hurt the movie. And for me, it did not. I thought he did a really good job. Like I said, Guy Gardner was funny, Mr. Terrific. Each character got a chance to kind of shine. And a character like Jimmy Olsen, he makes the kind of decision to make him a kind of a ladies' man, which is I've never seen that. I know, obviously, in every iteration that I've seen on film and on television, he's kind of a nerdy guy, kind of, following Superman around. And in this movie, he's definitely a confident reporter, as opposed to just kind of tagging along. And he's an integral part of the story. And Jimmy Olsen's character in the movie is actually, you find out, there'll be mild spoilers here. Like I say, I'm not going to spoil a lot of stuff, but there's a couple things I'm going to talk about because it helps in my discussion of the movie. Is he's dating the girl that's dating Lex Luthor, which is Miss Tessmacher, which in the 78 film was played by Valerie Perrine. So he's dating her kind of secretly. Obviously, nobody knows about it. And then there is a clever plot twist towards the end of the film that becomes a huge part of the third act, which, like I said, I'm not going to say, but it was cleverly put in, and the way it was executed, I thought was very clever. So for me, Superman is a movie that I had a lot of fun with, and the acting is fantastic. David Cornsweet as Superman is great. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane does a good job. They have a great chemistry together. Again, Jimmy Olsen is great. And I'm going to get to Lex Luthor. So, of course, my Lex Luthor is always going to be Gene Hackman because, like I said, my love of that 1978 film is going to be, without question, nothing's ever going to top that for me. And Gene Hackman's portrayal, I thought, was phenomenal. And plus, I'm a huge Gene Hackman fan, so I'm biased that way as well. I know some people had issues with his performance in the original Superman. And if it's not comic book faithful, then, I understand where the criticisms come in. I don't. I think he was fantastic. Now, that being said, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor is absolutely fantastic. He is fantastic in the movie. And I've seen these comments online, so I'm going to steal them in the sense, and I felt it when I was watching the movie, but like I said, I wasn't the first one to say it, obviously, reviewing this movie a couple of months after the fact, is Nicholas Hoult plays Lex Luthor as probably the greatest hater of all time. It's literally, of course, the motivation in the film, he's trying to, almost like the original Superman, there's a land deal involved. Things are happening where he's trying to be involved in this war to benefit and profit him, which, he's a businessman, all of that. But it really, the driving force of Nicholas Hoult's performance is just hate. He hates Superman. He hates everything about him. And when I watching the performance, I always go back to it. I think I even posted it online. Is the great Chappelle show when they had the player haters ball, and just one of the funniest skits of all time. But when I see Nicholas Holt playing Lex Luthor, that's exactly the vibe that I get, and it's fantastic. He just hates the dude. It's just he's jealous of him, whatever you want to call it. It's not even he just hates him, and that hate fuels every decision that he makes. And it's first of all, it's funny, and it just makes the character that much more fantastic and entertaining as the antagonist. And the thing that actually surprised me, another thing that happens in the film. So again, talking about balance, he's a hater and he's kind of funny and the things he says and he's over the top. But James Gunn makes it abundantly clear that he is not a dude to be trifled with and that he has a dark streak with him. There's a surprising scene, another one I won't say in the movie, in the film, where Lex Luthor does something that I never would have thought I'd see in a Superman movie. So I was shocked, actually. It kind of was jarring, but kind of in the best way. So they make no mistake, the movie shows that he is not only a hater, but he's a bad dude and would do bad things. So I thought it was shocking to see it happen, but it was a nice surprise. And I thought added to the depth of the Lex Luthor character and, of course, Nicholas Holt's performance. So obviously he's been basically, a rising star the last 2 years for sure. He's been around for a while, but I mean, between this film and Nosferatu, and then Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 6, which I'm a big fan of, you can check out that review on the feed as well. So he's fantastic, and the third act of Superman is really good, and I loved everything about it. I was a big fan of it. The music itself too was interesting because kind of like Superman Returns, they incorporated John Williams' music into this new Superman. Now, John Williams' Superman score is my favorite John Williams score, period. And that's saying something because John Williams scores are, first of all, iconic for as many films as he's done that I love pretty much all of them. I mean, he's worked with Spielberg, so all the Spielberg collaborations, Harry Potter, Star Wars, all the icon Jaws. But Superman has always been my favorite. Integrating that music with that movie has just been a perfect, seamless connection of movie to music. And the fact that they incorporated some themes of John Williams into the new score, which is great as well. And of course, James Gunn is known for dropping in music in his movies, especially Guardians, all the needle drops that are in the movie. And here is no exception. There's a couple of punk songs that he puts in there that are pretty good as well, which is the James Gunn kind of touch. So I think for me, Superman is fantastic. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. The actors did a great job. I'm trying to think if there was something that I did not like, and I really can't think of anything that comes to mind that I had an issue with. The only thing I noticed as an aside, and it's not even a criticism, is Perry White was barely in the film. Not that Perry White is a major character in a lot of the Superman movies. I just thought that they didn't give him enough to do here till the third act, and he's kind of there a lot. But that was really the only thing I really noticed. Other than that, though, I'm a huge fan of the movie. I thought it was very entertaining, and I'm happy that my concerns going in were for nothing because it actually turned out to be very entertaining. I did just read a couple of days ago regarding a sequel, and I guess James Gunn is kind of basically fast tracking it. I know they're doing Clayface and they are doing Supergirl. I think Supergirl's coming out a year from now, next summer. But I think they're fast tracking the second Superman film. He basically said he's got a 60-page treatment of the movie that he can turn into a script pretty quickly. And they're looking to start shooting probably at the beginning of next year, which is a quick turnaround, which means they're probably looking at it to be released 2 years from this summer, which is a quick turnaround. But I think with the very good reception of this Superman, I think he wants to keep the momentum going. And we'll see what happens, because as I was stating earlier about the mistakes I think Warner Brothers has made previously, which is why I think they brought in James Gunn, and I think was it Peter Safran, I think is the co-head now of the DC cinematic universe. I think the focus and the interviews that I've seen with James Gunn is basically, obviously he's a screenwriter first and of course a director, is that each of the films have their own individual style. just like the comic books do. Like he said, Clayface is going to be a horror movie. Obviously the introduction of Supergirl is going to be a different Supergirl than you've seen in other iterations on television. And of course, there was the Supergirl film in the mid '80s with Helen Slater, I think, played her, and wasn't very successful. So I think it's going to be a different iteration of that character for this particular movie that's coming out next year. So I believe that that's going to be something that's hopefully people will look forward to. And then Superman, the second Superman film after that. So he obviously we don't know what it's going to be. He won't really say if it's a sequel or not, or how it's going to be integrated into the bigger universe. So obviously we'll see, but obviously that's been fast tracked per James Gunn himself, and I can see why. The film has been successful. I think financially it's been successful. I know there's been some talk about it not doing as well overseas, but I'm sure Warner Brothers is pretty happy with the domestic and the foreign take of these films. So for me, I'm going to give Superman 4 out of 5 stars. So on that scale, for me, excellent movie. I would see it again. It's not a 5-star movie because 5-star movie to me is an all-time classic that I would watch over and over again. I would watch this film again. I don't think I'd rank it as an all-time classic, but for what it is supposed to do, which is basically set up the new DCU with James Gunn at the helm, I think it's a great start. I was very entertained by the film. And like I said, there's not really a criticism that I could point out significant enough to even mention. I was entertained by the movie, and that's all I asked for. Like I said, it doesn't really matter to me who directed it, who's not good, who's good. I don't care about that as long as the movie is good. So I think James Gunn did a great job, and we'll be looking forward to seeing the second movie when that premieres, hopefully in the next 2 years. So again, I'm going to give Superman 4 stars out of 5. So before I get into the next movie, again, you're watching or listening to, if you're watching this later on or listening later on to the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I am the host of the show, and I think somebody actually was nice enough to confirm that they can see me on Instagram. So thank you for letting me know that. So again, if you want to add to the chat and ask me questions about Superman or anything else that you may have on your mind, please feel free to do so. Again, if you are a regular listener or watcher of the show, thank you so much. If you have the means to support it, you can click on the QR code right there at the top, or you can go to my X page at Bend Your Ear Pod and use the tip jar there. That offsets the cost of me using the streaming software, the website, things like that. Just the small overhead I have to continue to do the show. So I'm enjoying doing the live here. So again, feel free to comment, or you can even comment after the fact if you watch the show later on YouTube or X or on the Rumble page as well. So I'm streaming on X, Instagram, and YouTube. So please follow me there as well. You'll get live notifications when the show goes live, or of course, if you don't watch it live, you can always watch it after the fact whenever you'd like. So I appreciate it. All right, I'm going to get into the second comic book movie, which is Thunderbolts, which came out back in May. As again, I told you I'm behind, so I'm going to get these out there. So Thunderbolts is interesting because obviously Marvel, I think a lot of people believe this, and I don't disagree with them, has been in kind of a malaise, for lack of a better term. I remember when Endgame came out, obviously the pinnacle of the first wave of the Marvel universe. I mean, it was phenomenal. Both Infinity War and Endgame were fantastic. And I think the question was always at the time, what do they do post Endgame? And I think that's been a question that's been hard to answer because it's been a roller coaster post Endgame. Some of it within their control, some of it I think out of their control. I'm going to start with the thing that was out of their control. So the main thing that was out of their control was the situation involving, of course, the actor Jonathan Majors, who played Kang, and his legal situation that Disney facilitated. They felt the need to fire him and remove that character, which obviously caused a ripple effect about what they were going to do, as Kang was going to be set up to be the big bad guy post Endgame. Now, there are some people that I've read that were happy about that to begin with anyway, because there was a lot of people I think that weren't big fans of Kang in the movies. I don't know about the comic books, but at least in the movie iteration of it, they were not big fans of it. So I think that kind of threw them for a loop, of course. And the other thing that happened was Endgame opened right before the pandemic. And, of course, it made billions. It was a huge hit. Pandemic hits, movie theater shut down. We all know the whole story. And that forced the movie industry in general and Disney in particular to move aggressively into Disney Plus. So their focus became getting content to Disney Plus so they can get subscribers and have a way to make income while the theaters were shut down. And I understand that in the sense that they were just scrambling. But what happened was, and they've admitted it now, is especially with Disney Plus, was the flood of content. Marvel television shows was too much. They threw a bunch of stuff out there, and a lot of it wasn't great. So I think it really hurt them. And then the movies that came out subsequently. So you have The Eternals, which I am going to review, not today, but I'm going to review it. I finally watched it. This is years after the fact, and obviously I know the bad reviews and the bad write-ups that Eternals got. So I have an interesting opinion on Eternals. I am going to share that on on an episode coming up, because I did actually watch it, and I'm going to give my take on it. But Eternals didn't do well. You had the third Ant-Man movie in Quantumania, which of course Kang was the main bad guy, and that movie I watched. I thought it was okay. I think a lot of people hated it. So another thing, I don't think I didn't hate the movie. I think my opinion of it is a little more generous than most people. Most people hated it. Okay, so you have that. So you have two strikes right there. So there was problems. I think there's been problems. Now they're trying to course correct. So obviously, with the absence of Kang being the main bad guy, now they've switched it up, and now it's going to be Doctor Doom, which of course, as everyone knows, they've brought back Robert Downey Jr., of course, famously Tony Stark, to come play Doctor Doom. And now we've got the setup getting into Avengers Doomsday and then Avengers Secret Wars, the two movies that are coming out in a couple of years. So obviously they're building to that. And obviously now we've got Thunderbolts that was released. Fantastic Four is out now. And then we're going to be leading up into Doomsday, which is coming out next year. So, and then of course, the kind of the offshoot of that is of course now they're starting to shoot the latest Spider-Man film, Brand New Day. Obviously, Tom Holland's back. I know the screenwriters from Far From Home are back, and then you've got a different director. Watts left, and then you have the director that directed Shang-Chi, I believe, directing this film. I know they're shooting it now in Glasgow. They started shooting it, which is coming out next summer, which will be, I think, after Avengers Doomsday, if I know the timeline right. All right. So that's where we're at now with Marvel. Marvel's kind of trying to get itself together, I think, creatively, and the films. So that leads up to my review of Thunderbolts. So when I saw the previews, so going back like with Superman, when I saw the previews of Thunderbolts, I didn't know what to make of it. The only thing I knew in watching the previews, because I don't, like I said, I don't read the comic books, so I have no idea about Thunderbolts. I have no background about it, what they are, other than the characters that were introduced in other films, namely, of course, Black Widow and Winter Soldier, the characters that I know from the films that I've watched previously. That's my only knowledge of them as individual characters, not as a group in the Thunderbolts. So when I saw the previews, I wasn't sure. Again, I was like, I don't know, because it kind of seemed like there was nothing that was grabbing me when I saw the previews. So that was my initial impression, not knowing anything about it. The one thing I will say is, and what's always been consistent for me, is Florence Pugh, I think, is a fantastic actress. She's captivating for me to watch. She's great in everything I see her in. She was great in Black Widow. Her character was always entertaining to me. She was great in Oppenheimer. Like she's just a charismatic actress to me. So watching her on film, I love to do. So that's always a plus for me. And of course, David Harbour coming back from Black Widow as well, playing her father, who is hilarious and very entertaining. And of course, you get Bucky, played by Sebastian Stan. So this film basically is a team-up movie. So again, from the comic book. So the other character that you see a lot in this film that comes back is, of course, you have Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, played by, of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who we've seen in the films. And, she's basically that cliched intelligence operative that is, when she's talking, she's not telling the truth. So she lies to everybody. She's just trying to basically anything that's going to serve her purposes is what she's going to do. And she's going to tell any lie to try to get to that purpose, which is fantastic, which is why her character is entertaining. So, of course, when this movie opens, you have Yelena destroying a lab working for Fontaine. So, of course, to cover something up that's bigger. So basically, what she does is one, she sends her to this mission, and then she dispatches a bunch of other people. John Walker, who we knew from the Captain America or the Winter Soldier TV series, the other Captain America. You have Ava Starr and Antonia Dreykov. So these are all operatives that work for DeFontaine. So basically, she sends them all there with the hope that they'll basically wipe each other out, so she doesn't have to deal with it anymore. So that's the setup of the movie. So we know DeFontaine is looking to cover her tracks at every turn. And that's a theme of this entire movie. So, of course, they don't all kill each other. They end up teaming up together, and they end up finding a man with amnesia named Bob that was released from that they released from the suspended animation pod. They rescue him, and he's basically inhuman. He's basically he's invulnerable to bullets, to things. They don't know what's going on. So Bob ends up joining this team of the rest of the people, and then they form the Thunderbolts team. So they're basically going after DeFontaine and trying to figure out what's going on while trying to find out more about Bob. So as the movie progresses, you find out Bob has these immense powers, and that DeFontaine was testing him to become a super soldier, another weapon for her to use to dominate. And that's the simple premise of Thunderbolts. And really, I don't have to get more complicated than that, because that's basically the narrative drive of the movie. And what I can tell you about this movie, just like with Superman, it's kind of similar. My expectations were low because, like I said, the trailer really didn't do anything for me. But the film itself is really much better than the trailer. And again, the main reason I enjoy the film is really Florence Pugh's Yelena. Like I said, she's always fantastic. She's always captivating to watch as an actress, and it's on display here. And one of the things I really enjoyed about Thunderbolts is the relationship between Yelena and Bob. So as the movie progresses, DeFontaine gets into Bob's head and says, "Hey, look, nobody cares about you. You were discarded." He's had a history of being discarded. He was a drug user. He was having these issues with his power and his visions. And she's basically catering to him, saying, "I'm the only one that cares about you." And he kind of believes it, and ends up becoming an antagonist to the Thunderbolts team. But the relationship between Yelena and Bob is really well done in the film, and it's acted out really well. Bill Pullman's son plays Bob in the film as well. He's great. And they relate to each other on a level of being kind of discarded, abused. So it's obviously, if you watch Black Widow, you know Yelena's background. You know how she came up, obviously trained as an assassin, just like, her sister. Of course, played by Scarlett Johansson. So the relation between those two characters psychologically, and there's a lot in this movie that deals with psychological trauma, uh, basically by a lot of the different characters, but it's in a way that I thought is entertaining and added a surprising level of depth in the movie that I wasn't expecting. So I was very happy to see that, and glad that they kind of portrayed that. So it gave it a deeper meaning to me, more than I thought it would. So for me, Thunderbolts, I think, is a very good Marvel film. I think it's going to be, when time goes by, I think it's going to be underrated as history goes by. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the dynamic within the team. There was good action in the film. There was a lot of laughs in the movie. I thought it really struck a balance between the serious and the funny. And what I think I liked about it is, and I think DC is trying to do this based on what James Gunn said, and I think Marvel needs to take a cue from this, and hopefully they will. Post Endgame, and I understand they have to set up stories moving forward, Thunderbolts feels like a standalone film, and I think that's good because it doesn't have the pressure of moving a narrative forward. And it's funny because I watched uh, Eternals, I told you recently, and it's funny because Eternals related me to Captain America, Brave New World, because they reference things that because I saw Brave New World first before Eternals, so some of the things made sense. But the thing about that is, something like Thunderbolts, you don't really have to do that. It's more of a standalone movie. So if you pop into it, it's advantageous because then you don't have all this backstory you have to know. Even if you didn't know any of these other characters, if you've never watched another Marvel movie, if you just kind of, the movie's self-contained, I think is a good and entertaining movie, which I think helps this movie a lot, which is why I think I liked it, especially with the kind of narrative issues that Marvel has been having post Endgame, trying to navigate back to Doomsday to try to get it hopefully back on track. I think Thunderbolts is a great example of that. And I think Marvel needs to do a better job of trying to tell. Now, sometimes you can't do it, especially if it's a direct sequel to something else, if it's like an Iron Man 2. But even then, really lean into trying to tell a standalone story where if you pulled the movie out on its own, you would still enjoy it absent of other films either before it or after it. That balance, I think, will help them make better films. And I think Thunderbolts is a really good example of that. Like I said, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. I was pleasantly surprised. So hopefully, because like I said, Captain America: Brave New World, which is on the feed, you can look at my review. Um, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I liked some parts of it, but I was not a huge fan. Thunderbolts is a a definite upgrade from Captain America: Brave New World. So I would recommend Thunderbolts. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And like I said, I think the fact that it was standalone really helped it a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and give Thunderbolts 3.5 stars out of 5. So on that scale, good movie. Again, it's not an all-timer movie, but it was entertaining. And like I said, just on its own, it was a fun diversion for me into this world with a comic book team that I never had seen before. So it was very entertaining. The acting was good, especially led by Florence Pugh and Pullman as Bob. Really led the way for me. And like I said, their relationship added a depth to the movie that I wasn't expecting, which I really, really enjoyed. So hopefully more people will check out Thunderbolts. I know it financially underperformed. So my recommendation in watching it now, you can probably stream it now. I don't think it's available on Disney Plus yet, but it's probably streaming digitally. You can rent it. I would recommend it if you are more. I think you will enjoy it. I think it's going to be underrated. Like I said, I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it deserved better returns than it ended up getting. And I took my son to see it because he wanted to see it. He wants to see every single Marvel movie. So, but I'm glad I did, and it was well worth my time watching the movie. So again, I'm going to give Thunderbolts 3.5 stars out of 5. So again, to recap, the two movies I reviewed for this episode: Superman, written and directed by James Gunn, I'm giving 4 stars out of 5. I believe it just came out on digital now. I think it's probably still in the theater, so you can check it out there if you like. And Thunderbolts, I'm giving 3.5 out of 5, which I think it is digital now. I don't think it's streaming on Disney Plus yet. You can watch it wherever you rent your movies if you want to watch that particular film. Again, better than I thought, and I think you'd enjoy it if you decide to take a chance and take a look at it. So again, I want to thank everyone that watches and listens, and I want to say I know I haven't been consistent at all at getting these episodes out, which is frustrating to me because this is something I love doing and I don't get to do it enough. So I'm going to try this particular method now. I think I'm very happy. I'm actually on Instagram now, which is great. So the live episodes will be there as well. Just another avenue. Because as I stated throughout this year, 2025, I want to try and grow this show, grow the audience, grow the interaction between the audience and myself. And I haven't been doing a very good job of it because I'm not getting enough out there consistently. So I think for me, I'm going to try to do these live episodes because I can do it spontaneously. Like I said, I've got movies in the queue that I've reviewed, not just new ones, old ones as well, that I got to get out there. And I think this is the best way for me to do it. And if people want to interact, that's fantastic. If you don't, that's fine. If you listen to it after the fact, that's great. Two, you can always add comments there if you're watching it on YouTube or if you're watching it wherever. So I'm going to be on YouTube. Please subscribe to the channel there. Let Me Bend Your Ear Pod. I am on X at Bend Your Ear Pod. The show is there as well. Rumble, feel free to do it there as well. You can also subscribe. And on now Instagram. So now on all the channels that I broadcast the show on, you should be getting notifications when the show goes live. So wherever you prefer to watch it, if you watch this particular podcast, you'll get notifications when the show goes live. I would also ask, please, if you can, this is extremely important, especially if you listen to the show and don't watch it. Really, but anybody that watches it too, but specifically the people that listen to the show. The show is also available on the audio feed wherever you get podcasts. It's pretty much everywhere now. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, anywhere you can get your podcast. You can even look it up on Google and it'll give you any feed where you can get it. And the website is letmebendyourear.com. Every show is available there. Every audio podcast is available there. This one will be no exception. So please, if you listen to this, wherever you listen, please, if you don't mind, rate and review the show. This is extremely important for two reasons. One, I'll get the feedback on what you like about the show, suggestions about the show, and use that to make suggestions about movies you'd like me to review. That's one thing I want to really try to do is get recommendations from you out there, the audience, of movies to review. Because, the Supermans or the big movies or large movies that come out, I'm going to try to get to those. I'm not going to get to them all just because I can't watch them all. But I'm really looking for off the beaten path movies, maybe movies that people don't know about that you really love, that you would like to hear my take on. Please put those through, because I try to do that myself. I'm going to have just to tease a future episode. I don't know when it's coming up, but I watched a film called Rolling Thunder, which came out in the 70s. It was written by Paul Schrader, the screenwriter of Taxi Driver, a bunch of classic movies. And it stars William Devane. I actually learned of this film from Quentin Tarantino's book. If you read his book, and I forgot the title of it now, it's basically his long essay critiquing films of the 70s. And one of the movies he talked about was Rolling Thunder. And it's a revenge movie, but a different kind of one. And that's all I'm going to say for now. But I'm definitely going to review it for this podcast and introduce it to a bigger audience. Because one of the things that I love about doing this podcast, and one of the things I love about being a movie lover, I always feel good about when I can suggest a movie to someone that's not really well known, not a well known film, and that they watch it and they end up loving it. Now, I've done that before and they ended up hating it. That happens too. But when they end up loving a movie that they would have never otherwise watched, is something that I love. And like I said, I'm going to talk about Rolling Thunder. But if you have movies that you've watched, new, old, doesn't matter, that you've loved and championed for other people, let me know about it. Because the beautiful thing about having a movie podcast is I'll never run out of material. If I'm reviewing movies new and old, there's an infinite supply. And I want to dig into new, and especially for me, when it's a challenge to review newer movies, because I don't get out to the movies enough to do that. I have streaming as a ally in me getting to watch newer movies and getting them reviewed. But for me, reviewing and talking about older films, one, it brings it to hopefully a newer and younger audience, and two, it gives me things to talk about, which I enjoy talking about. Older movies that maybe have gotten forgotten or people don't even know about, that if they end up watching, they end up enjoying. So that's a big thrill for me when somebody likes a movie that I've recommended. So if you have that, please feel free to comment on X, anywhere, to let me know. So I'm on X, YouTube. There's a Facebook page as well. Just look for Let Me Bend Your Ear. Shows on the video will probably air there as well. I don't do those live. Sometimes I'll upload those there, but you can always like that page. But definitely like the YouTube page for me. Follow me on X. Follow me on Instagram, and you'll get to see these shows like this. Like I said, I think going forward, I'm going to do these live when I have time and the ability to have the house to myself to do it uninterrupted. So I really enjoy doing it this way. And like I said, there's not really a time restriction for me. I can do as long as I have to do it, and review multiple movies on a podcast as opposed to one, and then talk about other things as well. So if you could do that, if you can follow, if you can support the show, there's the QR code. I appreciate it. And again, thank you so much. As I said, with the challenges aside, my goal is to continue to grow the show and grow the audience. And I cannot do it without you guys and the people that have been listening and always listen, even when I'm intermittently producing shows. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm always going to thank you and always know that I appreciate it. And before I actually sign off, again, I just want to give a plug to my son. He is going for Athlete of the Year. So if you could vote for him, I would appreciate it. It's a free vote. If you can vote once a day, all you need is a Facebook account. If you have that, it takes, like I said, 30 seconds to vote. After I get off the show here, I'll put the link on all my socials. So if you could vote for him, I would really, really appreciate it. He's doing pretty well. He's gotten to the third round, and we're trying to push him all the way to get him to the end. So if you could do that, I really appreciate it. So again, thank you so much for watching. And if you're going to listen or watch later, I'm thanking you as well. I appreciate all the love for the show. Thank you so much. Again, this is the Let Me Bend Your Ear podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back hopefully live again very, very soon. Take care. Have a wonderful